So deep in a German forest, there's this colossal copper warrior raising his sword to the sky. He's a monument to an ancient battle, for sure. But he tells an even bigger story, one about how a 2,000-year-old event was brought back to life to help forge a modern nation.
And right away, this statue poses a really fascinating riddle. I mean, it was built in the 1870s to honor a guy who fought against the Romans way back in 9 AD. So you'd think his sword would be pointed towards Italy, right? But no, it's pointed squarely at France, which was Germany's big rival in the 19th century. To figure out why, we have to go back, way back.
All right, so let's set the scene. The year is 9 AD. The Roman Empire is pretty much at the peak of its power. It's this huge organized machine that's absolutely convinced it's their destiny to rule the known world. And now its gaze is fixed on those wild, untamed lands just east of the Rhine River.
What you're about to see is a true clash of worlds. On one side, you have the unstoppable engine of Rome, and on the other, the fiercely independent peoples they just lumped together and called Germans. You really couldn't imagine two more different ways of life. Rome was all about structure, right? Professional legions, centralized laws, taxes, the whole shebang. They thought they were bringing order to a chaotic world. But for the Germanic tribes, this loose collection of clans who valued freedom above everything else, this Roman order just felt like being dominated. As one historian put it, they simply preferred their accustomed condition.
Now, right in the middle of this collision, you have two key figures. First, there's Publius Quintilius Varus. He's the Roman governor, a seasoned administrator who kind of sees turning Germania into a province as just another item on his to-do list. And then there's Arminius. Now, this guy is fascinating. He's a Germanic prince, sure, but he's also a Roman citizen who commands a cavalry unit for Rome. He's got a foot in both worlds, and that knowledge is about to become a very, very dangerous weapon. So, Varus, feeling pretty confident, starts imposing heavy taxes and Roman laws. To the Germanic tribes, it felt like tyranny, but to Arminius, it was the perfect opportunity. He came up with a plan that was as simple as it was brutally brilliant.
Arminius's whole plan was a masterclass in using Roman arrogance against them. First, he dangled the bait, a phony report about some small uprising that needed to be put down. Then, playing the part of the loyal ally, he offered Varus a shortcut right through the dense, swampy Teutoburg forest, terrain he knew the Romans just could not handle. And Varus, completely trusting his decorated commander, walked right into the trap. Imagine this. For 4 agonizing days, the Roman legions are just trapped. They're stretched out in a long, vulnerable column, bogged down in mud, with rain just pouring down relentlessly. They were completely helpless. Germanic warriors fighting on their home turf would just materialize from the trees, strike hard, and then vanish. It wasn't a battle. It was a systematic slaughter. The defeat was, well, it was catastrophic. And for Rome, this wasn't just a military loss. It was a deep, psychological wound that was going to fester for centuries. The estimated death toll was just staggering. In the span of only 4 days, around 10,000 professional Roman soldiers, the very backbone of the empire's power, were killed. But the humiliation, it went far beyond the battlefield. The sacred eagles, the very soul of the legions, were captured and paraded around like trophies. Roman prisoners were tortured and sacrificed in sacred groves. Even Varus's body wasn't spared. They actually dug it up just so they could cut his head off. When the news of this disaster finally reached Rome, Emperor Augustus was reportedly devastated. They say he wandered his palace for months, shouting, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions!" It's become one of the most famous quotes in all of Roman history, just a cry of pure imperial anguish. The shock was so profound that Augustus officially disbanded the Lost Legions. The numbers 17, 18, and 19 were permanently erased from the Roman military rolls. They were considered so unlucky, so cursed, that they could never be reformed. The ghost of the Teutoburg forest would haunt the Roman imagination forever. So for nearly 1,800 years, the story of this battle kind of fades into memory. But then, in the 19th century, with the Roman Empire long gone and Germany just a fractured collection of states, Arminius was about to get a dramatic rebirth. The historical Arminius got a total rebrand. He became Hermann the German, and he was the perfect hero for 19th century German nationalists. To them, he wasn't just some ancient chieftain, he was the first German, a unifier who fought off a foreign invader. a story that resonated powerfully as they tried to unite against their modern archenemy, France. It's really incredible how the meaning of this one event has been constantly reshaped. In 9 AD, it was a brutal ambush in a dark forest. Fast forward to 1875, it's a powerful symbol of German victory over France. Then, in the 1930s, the Nazis co-opted its massive scale for their mass rallies. And today? Well, today it's mostly a popular tourist spot, promoted for its scenic views. But it's so important to remember the monument's original vision. See, it wasn't just funded by militarists. It was paid for by ordinary German citizens who saw unification not just as a matter of strength, but as a path to a modern nation with liberty and democracy, a way to finally catch up with rivals like Britain and France.
And that brings us right back to our giant. He stares at France because the people who built him needed a story of ancient unity to fight a modern enemy. It reminds us that monuments often tell us way more about the people who built them than the history they claim to represent. Which leaves us with one last thought. What stories are our own national monuments telling us? And maybe more importantly, what parts of the story are they choosing to forget?